Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. And as you know, the theme for this week involves shooting fireworks, as it's July 4th here in the States coming up. Fireworks, a lot of questions have come in over the last month saying, why don't you make a video on fireworks? So honestly, I haven't really shot too many fireworks myself, so I've done a lot of research, reading around there, talking to other photographers, seeing how they've done it in the past, seeing what the keys are to think about, to look at, where your settings should be or could be, because there's no shoulds. It's a lot of trial and error, and obviously you want to try to get it as close as possible in the time that you have, because this only really happens one time a year. So I've made a quick list over here that I've written down for some tips from what I've gathered from other photographers that I've spoken to and other things that I've read about the settings. And then I'm going to get into the mentality of something to think about when you're out there shooting, because it's one thing to have your settings, but it's another thing to actually put that into context and to get an interesting image. So what I've gathered from a lot of people is that it's best to set the camera around f8, your lens, f8, f11-ish, right around there. And because fireworks are so bright, you're probably going to get a better color rendition or just more color by shooting at a lower ISO. So in this case, we're not bumping it to 12,000 ISO because we're shooting at night. Remember, the flares, the pyrotechnics, all that stuff is really bright. So the trails you're going to want to get, you don't want them to get washed out. So, 100, 200, 400, play around there. F8, F11. Now you're going to want to know how you should do focus. You have infinity. It's the sideways 8 on your lens. Infinity focus is probably going to be the best thing to do, and a tripod is pretty important. You can try handheld. You can try some weird things where you do a zoom and pull when you're shooting. So if you're hand-holding, you go from wide to tight. So you would hold the shutter down, turn it, boom, but we didn't even get into what your shutter speed should be. So tripod's important if you want to get a steady image. If you want to try something more artistic, then getting off the tripod and shooting with just hand holding is another option. So shutter speeds, where can they be? Well, if your camera has a bulb setting, that's B, it usually says bulb in the camera, as long as you're holding the shutter down, the shutter button down, the shutter will stay open. Now, it's recommended that you have a cable release. The reason you want a cable release is because if you're pressing the button, you're causing some shake to happen, and you're going to get some, out of focus, some blurry things that could happen from the shake. So if you don't have a cable release, you could set your shutter speed to something longer, like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, press it, then it's going to settle, it's going to capture more of the image, but it still may have some shake in there. So bulb is a good setting to use. If you don't have bulb, your camera will probably do at least 30 seconds, but a lot's you're going to have to play around and see what's going to work the best in terms of shutter speed. I would take a couple of sample images real quick when fireworks start. Remember, you've got 10, 20, 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, which is a long fireworks show, but that's just the fireworks. Now, that's the basic idea behind your settings. Infinity focus, f8, f11-ish, a lower ISO, longer shutter speeds. You're going to want to capture the motion of the trail. Try it, see what it looks like, because it's trial and error. I'm going to try to go out and actually do the same thing and post some photos in the weekend section. But here is something I'm thinking about. It's one thing to just focus in on the sky, a tight portion, and shoot fireworks going off. But that's almost like saying that I'm going to shoot a portrait, I always use this term, under the Eiffel Tower, but I'm going to do a really tight headshot, and now it looks like I shot it in anybody's basement or backyard. It doesn't look like I shot it in Paris, France. Paris, France. So just focusing in on just a big burst in the sky, to me, seems like a kind of like a waste of time. It's going to be cool to get that burst, but there's no context to it. So with that being said, if you shoot a little wider and you get, or it doesn't even have to be wider. If there's a landmark that you're photographing, say it's the town hall where you're at, or if you're in Philadelphia, it's the art museum. Shoot a little wider or zoom in on a certain portion of it, and then that's going to get lit up by the fireworks. So when the fireworks light that up, there's now some context to it. There's some texture. There's something going on in there. So I think I'm going to try shooting at like 14 millimeters, but sit behind people and shoot like somebody with their arm around their little kid and try to get them lit up by the fireworks and shooting there. Maybe shoot it on an angle where you see them smiling and looking up in the sky as the fireworks are blowing up and lighting their face. That may be what I may focus on more so than just the fireworks, because there's a context. There's something going on behind the scenes. There's parents with kids. There's dogs. There's cat. No, nobody has their cats, but there's dogs. There's, they're there. There's things going on that more so than the fireworks. But put it all together into an image, and you've got something unique going on, not just the fireworks going off. With that said, it's going to be important to get a good spot. So think about getting where you're going to early so you can find that location where you have a clean view, where mostly people aren't going to be blocking it, and you have the ability to try different settings. So I wouldn't stay on the same settings. I would shoot some pictures. I would take a look. I would correct on the fly. Don't rush through it. Just go slow, breathe, think. If you need to wear earplugs to concentrate, wear earplugs to concentrate. So, I hope these tips help. I'm going to try a lot of them out myself, but it's a great starting point. A lot of trial and error is going to work out there, but think of the things that I said. I'm going to write it down. Frono's photo. I'm going to put up some of these tips that I just spoke about into a list so that you guys can see them. So that's about it. That's fireworks. But be sure to post your fireworks photos in the weekend section for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's an extended weekend, so you get 3 days to put up your photos. So that's what I got. Have fun. Be careful. Have a great weekend. That's how I think you should think about shooting fireworks. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.